awesome video that we wanted to show you, but it was formatting, so it took us slightly longer than we were expecting. First of all, let me welcome you to the first presentation of Agnes for this year. It's a great opportunity for us to give you a bit of insight into what we do. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Leonardo Yalongo, Leo, for those who can't pronounce Italian names. And I am the current chairman for e.quinox this year until August. We have a lot of people from the committee here, so if at the end you have any questions specific to a project or specific to a particular aspect of e.quinox, feel free to ask us questions. We will, however, join the international development mingle, which is happening in the RSM as soon as this is finished, so you can get an opportunity as well to talk to us there. Okay, let's get started. It always quite hard to actually explain what e.quinox is about. And this is because we have quite a few projects, quite a few different ideas. And I can tell you for certain that it took me more than a year before I could actually understand what e.quinox was about. And part of that was me making mistakes. It is easy to assume that we're a standard charity, that what we do is just go to Rwanda, do a lot of electrification projects, and come back and feel good. This is not e.quinox. And in fact, if your primary aim is to get a holiday, you shouldn't join e.quinox. I mean, I don't say this with hard feelings. I don't want you to not join e.quinox just to experience Rwanda. Rwanda is a great place to go. But unfortunately, 90% of the work we do is here in London, and only 10% is Rwanda. A very important 10%, but in terms of time of commitment, that's the way it is. We try to explain what e.quinox is about in our vision, and you can read it. It's a fairly strange statement. I think it does summarize quite well, and there are three words I want to focus on that are written there. The first one is develop. And I think it is important develop is the first word in our vision, and that's because develop is at the core of what we do. We develop solutions, business solutions, products, we develop communities. That's at the core of what e.quinox is about. Of course, we do this through students, and this is the part I think is quite unique about e.quinox. I think you'll find there are many other societies within Imperial that do international development. I think you'll struggle to find a society within Imperial that is 100%, and I really mean 100% student led. There are many others that have trustee boards or have some more involvement from other things. This does not mean that we don't collaborate. We have professors helping us and things like this, but we are 100% student led, which means the decisions will be taken by you, effectively, if you join us. And we also develop things to be open source. And this is a point I want to come back to later, but it's fairly important because developing new ideas requires us to share them. Okay. The second word I want to focus on is sustainable. And it's a word that is sometimes hard to explain for us because sustainable people are often associated more with the environmental part of sustainability. So about not emitting CO2 or not polluting the environment. This is certainly key for us. I mean, all our solutions use renewable energies. But sustainable primarily for us means sustainable from a financial point of view, sustainable from a long-term point of view. It means that with solutions that we implement in our communities where we work, are solutions that need to last long-term, are solutions that need to have a long-lasting impact on these communities. And in fact, I mean, I can tell you it wasn't always like this. As e.quinox started at the beginning, we made more mistakes, and as we progressed, we're starting to focus more on this point. And I think this is also another part about e.quinox, which is quite unique. I think we stress a lot this point. This point is quite important for us, and in fact, we spend a lot of our time assessing our solutions rather than developing new ones. And that is because we do not, like some other charities or some other NGOs that work in this area, the arrogance to believe that we already know what the solution is. You know? If you come to e.quinox, you'll find that most of the time we don't know what we're supposed to do. We just try first and then see how it goes. The last point is electrification. And some of you, and actually myself, we questioned why electrification. Why is it that there are many difficulties that affect international development? Why did we choose access to electricity? And actually, I was quite an embarrassing situation this year in Rwanda when I was asked this question by a person I had met in the hospital, and I just didn't know. I never thought about it really. Why do we choose electrification and not, for example, water purification or sanitation, access to sanitation or access to healthcare, access to education? Why is it that electrification is so important for Equinox? I think there is an answer to this question. I think it's very key, and it has to do with the empowering properties of electricity. All the other things that are necessary for development are of course key, but none of them are a stepping stone into providing other services. Having access to electricity means powering a pump that can pump water to your village. It means lighting up your school at night if you want to have extra lessons. It means that at night you can study for longer. It means that a healthcare center in a particular village can have access to a fridge and keep the vaccines in there. It is because of this that we chose electrification. It is because of this great power that electricity has that we can provide sustainable solutions to develop these communities. This vision reflects itself in our values, and of course, as I explained, rural electrification is at the core of what we do. Again, student run is fundamental because we want you to learn. You might think that it's the primary aim of Equinox is to develop communities, and of course this is true, but we realize that actually some of our impact does not come through our direct work in the communities. It comes through educating students like you into the challenges of development, into what you can do to help development. And by making you learn about these things, we allow you to go later on, explore maybe working in this field and things like this. So for us, student run is really important. And of course, open source. And open source is fundamental, of course, because we cannot, we are a small student society, and we cannot go and implement, 2 million of our solutions because we don't have the means to do so. And I mean, if you consider that there are still 1.3 billion people that do not have access to electricity, and that is 20% of our population. These are statistics from 2009 from the International Energy Agency. We cannot aim to bring electricity to 1.3 billion people. It's not in our means. But what we can do is prove the concept, prove that it's possible through these solutions. Therefore, we have, of course, humanitarian NGO as our primary aim. It's clearly what we're trying to do. And as I said, it's student learning. And it's not just student learning of you people. One of the big things that we do is that we collaborate with other universities. In particular, we collaborate with the University of Rwanda. And we help students there with creating a student group there that can help us develop these solutions, so that together we can develop better solutions, and also by teaching them, they will create a generation of engineers, Rwandan engineers, that can help us and help the country grow. Business model is something that I mentioned already. It comes back to our sustainability. It comes back to the fact that our ideas need to be sustainable on the long term. It needs to be something that grows, makes the community grow. And we've decided that the best way to do this is to have a business model. Our solutions are 100% businesses. They are not charity. We don't go there, pour money into the community. We don't go there and give things for free. We don't do that because we know that if we did that, we created dependency. And then the communities would need our help every year and always more. Instead, by creating businesses, local businesses, we can help the community locally to grow. And this is a much longer lasting impact than anything we can give for free. Finally, research. As I said, we don't have the means nor the time to give 1.3 billion people access to electricity, but we can publish papers that say that it is possible. We can develop the electronics, the PCBs, the whatever, that prove that it is indeed possible and it's indeed easy to bring electricity to these people. The last thing I want to say is that there's a lot of other projects that sort of design products for these communities, but what they don't do is they take a technology that is, is they take a technology that was proved here and then try to export it in a context they don't understand. This is why many of these projects fail. One thing that we do is that we have purpose design. We go to these communities, we first understand, we research what their needs are, and then we design things which are necessary for them. And that of course comes with a lot of testing. So really, we try to help the communities, and we try to do so through local business. And I think this is quite interesting. There's a famous book about aid that is called Debt Aid by Dambisa Moyo, which is Zambian economist. And in this book, her thesis can be summarized in the fact that international aid, or that is conventional approach that is taken to developing these countries, is in fact detrimental to these. Because, as I said, it creates dependency. By pouring money into the community, it actually kills the local businesses, it kills the local communities in the long run. So what we do is we try to do exactly the opposite. We try to empower these communities through our projects, through our businesses, and through our ideas. I'm going to now let Francis, who's the project manager for franchisee model, explain a little bit about what we've done in the past and what the development for our future project is.
So as you see on the screen here, we've been developing our ideas for the 7th year now. And throughout the 7 years, we have different projects undergoing, and we still have some new projects that are going to be developed in the coming years. But let me just first introduce the first ever project that we ever developed from e.quinox, namely the energy kiosk. So Leo talked about our aims of bringing electricity to places where there's no grid connection. So essentially, we're bringing power to a place we know nothing about, and neither does the place know anything about us. So how are we going to do that? So we envisaged a centralized location in a community, so people can go there, meet each other, and most importantly, they can get electricity from there. So that's what we did. We built an energy kiosk. And as daunting as the name sounds, it's actually nothing more than a house we built with solar panels on the rooftops. So what the house does is that the solar panel charges up huge storage batteries in the kiosk, and then we rent out some smaller battery boxes without solar panels to customers. So when they use up the batteries, they just come again to the kiosk and charge them up. So by doing this, we meet the basic needs of electricity for most of the villagers, namely phone charging and lighting. So this diagram shows the whole centralized idea of an energy kiosk. So we had 6 of these, of which one is in Tanzania, but currently we only have 5 in operations. And of those 5, 1 is run by a hydropower plant, so the other 4 are run by solar panels. However, as good as it sounds, there are some problems associated with the whole energy kiosk model. The most imminent one being an extremely high initial investment, including the building itself and large-scale circuitry and electronics and batteries. Hence, it's pretty much impossible to break even in the foreseeable future in terms of the business. So take the hydro project as an example. The building itself and the hydropower plant itself, the building cost is around $30,000 US, while customers only have to pay $7 US per month for recharges. So this huge incompatibility in the numbers show how impossible it is to break even in the foreseeable future. We also have operational problems. We often distribute these battery boxes to customers that are living too far away from the energy kiosk. For example, just think about it. If you are a customer possessing a battery box, and when you use up the battery, you have to walk like an hour uphill just to charge the battery. This leads to the fact that we highly overestimated the customer numbers, and we have other operational problems like black charging, which means customers charging their battery boxes at places other than our energy kiosks. So the customers are happy, they get free energy without having to pay us. So these different problems lead to the fact that we don't have sufficient income generated from the energy kiosks. So currently, the income generated from the kiosks is only enough to pay for the shopkeeper's salary and around 30% of the costs of replacing inventory. So technically speaking, it's not even sufficient in operating. Well, it can pay for the shopkeeper's salary, but not the real operational costs, because we have to pay for maintenance, but these costs cannot be fully covered by the income generated. So learning from these lessons, we have a few different new projects, or projects that have already been developed, that tackle these problems specifically. The first one being the standalone project. From the standalone project, we entail a new business model called the pay-as-you-go model. What that means is that customers first pay an initial payment to possess a solar home system. And what that means is that a battery is connected to its own solar panel. So the customers are happy, they don't have to come to the kiosk every time they want to recharge their batteries. They then buy codes to unlock the system for a certain period of time, say 4 weeks. And once they used up the 4 weeks of energy, they have to buy a new code and unlock the box again. And once they covered the cost of the system through buying a certain number of codes, they gain the ownership of the system. So we have two versions of standalone boxes, as shown on the slides. However, as you might have expected, there are problems with this new project as well. So the customers are happy; they don't have to recharge their boxes once in a while in a kiosk. But the technical solution was not as reliable as the energy kiosk model. We have unpredictable battery discharges, we have payment softwares that are not fully functional, and it's also a bit more expensive to the end customers than the kiosk model since they have to possess their own solar panels. But the advantages of this model is that the business itself is more sustainable than the kiosk, so it breaks even in the foreseeable future and it's more scalable. The next project, and one that is presently being developed, is called the franchise system, which I am actually responsible of. So what it actually means is that it's essentially an energy kiosk, but downsized into a box, into a solar system. So what we do, we rent a large-scale solar system to a local entrepreneur, letting him or her to run the charging business himself, giving him or her a certain degree of freedom when he's running this. So that's as the name suggests. Just try to think about it. If you are a franchisee, if we franchise one of the battery boxes for you to run the charging business, you can have the freedom to say, for example, do your own marketing strategies, as long as you follow our guidelines. So the battery box itself, the newly designed ones, are capable of charging mobile phones, and potentially new lanterns that we are planning to design this year as well. What this means is, because we don't have to build a huge building, and because we don't have to give every single customer his own battery, the initial investment is lowered, and this leads to a more sustainable business model again. And a lower initial investment also means the prices for customers will be lower, so we are able to reach the poorest people, the base of the pyramid. So what's currently underway now? So I personally went to Rwanda this summer, and we did some customer surveys, we did some business surveys, and this coming year we are planning to design new lanterns and design the new battery boxes that we're going to rent, and most importantly, this coming summer we are going to hold the first pilot testing in Rwanda itself, so it sounds dynamic. Another huge project that we are currently that we're currently developing now is a distribution line that is run and powered by our hydropower plant that was built a few years ago. So as you might have remembered, like around 5 minutes ago, I talked about the failure, well not failure, but the business, the fact that the business model for energy kiosks is not exactly sustainable. And let us revisit the hydro power plant kiosk. So due to the very high initial investment, it's very hard to break even. But when we look into the hydropower plant itself, a lot of the initial investments are actually fixed costs regardless of the capacity of the power plant. Hence, the plant and the kiosk itself was designed for a capacity that is much higher than our solar kiosks. And to make this whole idea make sense, the only way to do this is to connect the power plant and the energy that it provides directly to households, businesses, or other institutions. So Equinox members went to Rwanda this summer again. So what we did was we did some civil surveys. We investigated the materials and some costs of building the distribution lines. We did some business surveys. And currently, we have a few business options available and are currently considering these business models. The first one being something like an energy kiosk, but now we have a centralized, cooperatively owned workshop that performs several community functions, so not only an energy kiosk. So the kiosk renting battery, so renting energy is only one of the functions that we're planning to work on. And that's one of the possible business options. The second one, being what we're looking into in the future, is to incorporate solar home systems and the hydropower plant into a microgrid. So we would connect the distribution line into some main institutions in the villages, and that's in preparation for further connections into a microgrid that connects businesses and families. So by now I hope you have a general idea of how you can get involved and what I'll be currently working on. And I also do think that the projects that we develop, each single project that we develop now, we learn from previous projects. So it's a process of trial and error. We know what mistakes we've made, we work on them, we learn from them, and we develop new projects. I think that's a really valuable experience that all of you should undertake. And if you have any questions, you can ask us after the presentation, and I will hand the stage back to Leo.
I don't know that. That's not fair.